What business problems is the C-suite and the board looking to solve? So is it customer retention? Is it deepening accounts? Is it repeat visits? Is it like what is it, right? That we are quantifiably trying to drive, and how do we measure that?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining for another episode of what we like to call the Industry Pulse series, where I sit down with some of our experts to discuss the hot topics and trends shaping the CX industry. So, today is going to be a good one. Let's get into it. If we're being honest, surveys just don't cut it anymore. Only about 5 to 10% of customer experience data comes from surveys, and the rest comes from behavior and conversations, which is a huge amount of insight that can shape business decisions. Imagine you walk into a company with no CX program at all. There's no surveys, there's no NPS scores. What's your first move? What data are you focusing on? And how do you ensure it leads to real change that executives care about?
A lot of times we see is when a program's first starting, it's like we need to go out and get data. Like we need to go out and survey, or we need to start texting, and we just need to go and collect. So there's kind of this desire for acquisition. I think the best first step when you move on to that point is to understand the data that you already have. This is a huge thing that I think a lot of companies kind of miss when they're looking at this. That includes the operational data, in the hospitality side of things, that's like booking abandonment rates, call center volume, loyalty program engagement, web interaction, all of that kind of stuff. It includes financial data, right? And in addition, it's that huge mountain of unstructured feedback data. And usually that's that big pile of data that nobody really knows what to do with, but they think it might be important. Like the call log, social media mentions, maybe front desk notes in the hospitality setting. So really, I think getting that data with the goal of linking the disparate pieces to kind of really understand customer needs, the value, the life stages, and really like those journey friction points is really, really an important component. When you bring that together, then you start to see a picture, and you could have a CX program right there without even launching one survey.
And the other thing I would add would be, what business problems is the C-suite and the board looking to solve? So is it customer retention? Is it deepening accounts? Is it repeat visits? Is it like what is it, right? That we are quantifiably trying to drive, and how do we measure that specifically? And so for me, in addition to understanding the environment, the stakeholder interviews, the what data is it, it's really getting very crystal clear on what problem are we trying to solve.
Is there a data signal that you guys would say is like the biggest bang for a company's buck, or like one that you see consistently being overlooked? Because Jeff, you mentioned they have a lot of this data. So what is a big piece of data that they're overlooking?
I would say it's the contact center call. It's an EX and CX signal. It indicates what the customer problem is and their description of it and their level of emotion or distress or anxiety related to it, and often them explaining the impact it's having on them. And then the employee responding and saying whether they can help or not. Typically, a customer problem begins with an employee experience problem, and here we're able to see them connected together, where the employee is either not able to fix it or send them someplace else, deflect it from contact center to, in store or in location or website. So that's an employee experience issue if they can't service it.
I think the greatest signal, bar none, are the signals from the employees that are largely untapped. The greatest receptor of experience, what do we think that is? It's got to be our eyes. What do we see happening? What is it that we are actually experiencing? Employees, especially in retail, are on the front row of that customer experience. They see it happen. They see when it goes well. They see when things have opportunities for improvement. And that's largely untapped. I'm talking specifically for retail. I think that will change over time.
Because there's only a finite amount of people that will actually respond if they get emailed a survey or texted a survey. But what they're telling you through their behavior can be incredibly powerful. And again, I kind of go back to that earlier idea. There's a whole world where you have a CX program with not one survey sent, because you're just seeing what's happening and understanding customer behavior. And they will show you based on what you're putting out there and how they're reacting to it, kind of what their experience is.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So we have all this data that we just talked about, but it's siloed, right? So marketing, support, the frontline, they all have different insights. So how do you break down these silos and make sure that the right teams get the right info? And why does this matter to ROI?
Incentives is the best way to break down silos. And in my experience, is that leadership designates what the bogey is, what the North Star is for the company. And everybody works to achieve that. And that helps different departments within an organization come together and work toward a common goal. Then it takes, a practitioner, like what we've all done in the past and what our clients do, is to align the data against those KPIs or those strategic goals and put them front and center and make them easy to understand and make it really contextual and timely.
And you may find, as I did, that some areas of the business are more change ready and they have a bigger appetite to doing things different. And it may not be the biggest customer experience problem out there, but if they're ready and willing and sort of, going to be a partner with you in this, sometimes that can be a great place to start, even if it's not maybe number one friction point on the list.
Silos create disconnected, frustrating experiences for customers and the employees. And then it leads to this churn and attrition, I think, on both sides, right? I mean, you're talking about like duplicated effort and as a result, wasted resources. Take the contact center and, digital channels from a customer facing standpoint. They typically have very similar, if not the same goals. Completing a transaction often occurs there, or booking from a hospitality standpoint. Troubleshooting, customer service, customer support. These are all things the digital team wants to be resolving. The contact center team wants to be resolving. And yet, you still see instances where these are two completely different departments. They have their own KPIs, their own goals. They're not talking to each other. And the customer's trying to figure out why things are said one way on the website, and the person answering the phone says another thing. And that is an example of how silos can hurt you. Like, you're not only paying for it on the website, you're paying the person in the contact center, and they're not even working together correctly. Whereas you could be getting things way upstream, and it's just a way better experience for customers when they just get a quick answer on a digital setting, right? Or they see something they are looking at from a digital standpoint, and then they get some validation from a contact center standpoint.
I think it's awareness, right? If we look at something like the always on digital survey for customers, it's filled with contact center feedback and feedback about other things. But when the digital team looks at it, they say, oh, well, this isn't about our site, so this isn't relevant. They don't know that the contact center is not already getting that information. The reason it came there is because they couldn't reach the contact center, that poor customer, and thousands, if not millions, doing the same thing. Same thing happens with employee and customer data. Typically, employee experience people don't see customer feedback. Customer feedback is filled with employee experience issues that the customer is telling us about. And same on the other way. Employee experience feedback is filled with customer experience problems employees are reporting, and they're reporting potential solutions. But people just aren't aware of it. It's unintentional. They're focused on their own thing, right? Different incentives, different goals, different silos. So when we try and bring them together, I think the best way is awareness, because we often don't know what we don't know. Every day I learn more about what I don't know.
So AI, I'm just going to say it, it's a big time buzzword right now, and it often seems like it might be the only thing people are talking about. But the key thing with AI is that it can only be as good as the data it's fed, right? So how does AI play a role in CX transformation?
And when a new transformative technology comes along, I think the first thing people usually do is say, well, let's just kind of slap this on something we've already been doing and kind of do it better, right? But I think where the transformation is going to occur is when people find ways to kind of do things that they haven't really been doing well to begin with, or maybe entirely new use cases. AI really helps make sense of massive, complex data streams, right? I mean, that's can be a really, really helpful thing from an analysis standpoint. So helping to understand unstructured data, right? Something that here at Medallia, we've been using AI for quite a while, right? Calls, chats, reviews, video feedback, right? At scale to identify and understand the root causes, the sentiment, and then the emerging themes and how that's actually presenting itself. So I think that's particularly interesting. I think the other thing is one thing AI does pretty well from what I've seen at this point is putting together an objective predictive model, right? And anticipating customer needs, churn risk, potential escalations. You're never going to get 100%, but I think it can really help in triangulating that component.